Hello and welcome to another edition of Only in Illinois, your weekly video recap from Reboot Illinois. I'm Madeline Dubeck here with Matt Dietrich, and while we remain at a budget standstill, a lot of the attention on the pension debt problem in Illinois has kind of fallen to the back burner, but there are some people out there trying to change all of that. And we had a couple of really nice guest essays this week from a couple people trying to float some different options. The first one came from Ed Bachrach, who is concerned about the situation in the city of Chicago and Chicago pension funds. The mayor has proposed a significant, almost $600 million property tax increase, with a lot of that money going to the police and fire pension funds, which are the most underfunded of the five in the city of Chicago. I think one of them is down to 24% funded, and the other is at 29%. So what did Ed Bachrach have to say?
Well, Ed Bachrach is a businessman, and he lives in Decatur and Chicago. He ran the Bachrach clothing operation, if you're familiar with those stores. And he's become a civic activist also, and he's really learned a lot about the pension situation. And Ed Bachrach's concern in the op-ed piece that we posted is that he wants to make sure that all of this new property tax money gets put away and actually ends up going into the pensions, not merely finding its way into the city budget and being spent elsewhere. So he also makes a point.
Which is kind of how we got into this mess in the first place at both the city and the state level.
That's exactly right.
Right.
And he believes also that the scope of the Chicago pension crisis is so big that even this property tax increase is not enough to address it. And he makes the analogy of shooting an elephant with a BB gun. And he is concerned too that this property tax increase is, as he puts it, just the first float in a long parade of Band-Aid solutions to the Chicago pension crisis. And he is of the mindset that he thinks eventually this will end up as a bankruptcy. But in the meantime, if this happens, Chicago taxpayers, he's concerned that they need to ask a lot of questions. Number one being, where is this property tax money going to go to, and how do we keep everybody else's hands off of it?
And how are we assured we're not going to have to continue to write a check this bigger in future years?
Now, also this week we had a piece from Representative Mark Batnick.
He's a freshman Republican from the Plainfield area.
And his point is that, hey, the concept of pension reform isn't dead, even though the state Supreme Court in May said you're not going to trim the benefits. You've got to pay that $105 billion somehow. But Representative Batnick has an innovative idea. What can you tell us a little bit about what he said?
The gist of it is, again, this concept of giving workers and retirees a choice. And he's essentially borrowing from something that some private sector companies have done, Boeing and GM, I think he mentions. The idea is to give everybody a choice. One choice could be taking an early lump sum payout of your pension amount so that you could then transfer it into your own 401k, or you could take a partial lump sum payment and then continue to get a smaller monthly pension once you retire. Or third, you can just keep everything the way it is now and stay in the system. So that would obviously require the state to come up with significant amounts of cash if a lot of people wanted a lump sum payout. But the idea is that it would kind of shrink the debt going out into future years.
Right, because once they do that, they're out of the pension system entirely. And if you get a lump sum payment, you could put it in an IRA, you could do a lot of things. But one of his points is you can also pass it on to your survivors.
Right.
You can't put
do that with a pension.
Right. So I suppose that for some people that might be an appealing thing. There's a lot of skepticism about, where are you going to get all that money? Because the pension funds have to keep money to pay out to the people still in the system. So there's always that balancing act. But an innovative, it's something new to introduce, other than just, how do we pay it? Also in play, although not being really discussed right now because of the budget situation, Senate President John Cullerton, who has long talked about.
He's the first one who said there needs to be a choice.
Yeah, and he has said if his plan had been adopted in 2013 instead of the one that got thrown out in court, that we'd be saving $1 billion a year. He and his former general counsel Eric Madere, who's kind of a pension expert, both say that they think that would make it through the Supreme Court and we'd save $1 billion a year, which is not what the original bill that got thrown out was going to save, but it's something.
Okay.
And you know, along these lines, since we're talking about pensions, last week the City Club of Chicago held a really good conference featuring 4 experts with different from different fields on the state pension, including Eric Madere. And one thing that it brought home to me was we can learn a whole lot about bad habits state government gets into by looking back at the pension crisis. We can't undo it now. It's just Supreme Court's been pretty clear on that, but a lot of good insights from these 4 panelists. And here's a look at a few of them. And we've got more video posted on our site in the City Club of Chicago, but take a look and here's what they have to say.
And so, you know, what we have clearly is a $100 billion debt right now, and no plan to pay for it.
The public pension holiday, I think, is just like if you have credit card debt. And just say, isn't this great? We're going to skip 3 months of payment. There, I can enjoy these 3 months. Isn't that great? And we know what that means in terms of digging a hole that is deeper and deeper, and the compounding effect of that. So
pension funding has historically been a political football and something not to worry about until tomorrow. And so past governors and general assemblies really only made the contributions after they had already made contributions on things that were politically popular.
Well, the reason that we're in this financial mess is because they do not use truth in accounting when they calculate the budget. They use what we call political math.
All right, good stuff. And we want to keep reminding everybody that the pension problem is, you think the budget is a problem, well, the pension debt is the huge elephant in the room, to borrow Ed Bachrach's analogy again. So that's it for this week's edition of Only in Illinois. Thanks for watching.